Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. Hey, all you minties, Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Marvel Age Omnibus Volume 1. We're going to be talking about what exactly is this particular omnibus. So, join me. And welcome back, everybody. So here we have one of the most interesting releases this year. And before I go any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and all the folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on October 10th or 11th, depending on where you get your books. This right here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that's going to be available everywhere. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover, supplied by Richard Howell. And this standard edition cover is supplied by Kerry Gamble. Now, most of the time, the covers are different when it's direct market and standard edition. Sometimes the spines are different. Every once in a while, the back is different, and the back in this one is different, so I'll show what the back of the direct market looks like compared to the standard edition. But let's shift the focus back to this. So we have the Marvel Age logo up here, Bush man here in the corner box, waiting for somebody to pick up the phone, and then across the board is this amazing image from Kerry Gamble. Marvel Age right there, Volume 1, and then the back of the book with this box right here, telling you a little bit about what this is in here. The ISBN rated T+, and it's $125. So there's all kinds of characters that they were able to get on this particular dust jacket. So here is what the back of this one looks like, and what the back of the direct market cover looks like. So it's a little bit different. But everything else underneath the dust jacket is the same. So let's bring it back to this. Let's look at the flaps right here. Marvel Age on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is most of the creators, not all of the creators here. Featuring timeless interviews with some of the biggest names in comics. Including these wonderful folks right here. There's Fred Hembeck, Ant-Man right there. Yes, I saw that they were doing at Crystar. The Hasbro has a toy of him. And then the design of what's underneath the dust jacket. This is the art on board, so it looks like many different titles with logos all over the place. With the Marvel Age logo right there. Okay, we're going to crack this open and talk about exactly what this is. This is going to be a pretty unique overview, honestly. But that's because of the content that's in here. Okay, let's take a trip down memory lane, as that's what this is going to be. So we have some red end pages right there, and then we have this Bill Sienkiewicz piece right here of Dazzler, and over here is the credits for the cover and the variant cover, the collection editor, and you have a wonderful introduction by Jim Salicrup, who helped put this magazine together, who put Marvel Age together. And the idea of where it originated from was from some guy named Edward Edson Lee, not Stan Lee. I love this introduction. And then, of course, that's Edward Lee, who he was talking about, and you can find out the books he was talking about that inspired Stan Lee to do something very similar, to keep the fans involved, to keep them in the loop of what's going on. And then the pitch for Marvel Age. Here's the table of contents right here with characters. And I'll be honest, there are going to be characters here that you may not even recognize. And that's okay, because everything is intact in this wonderful collection. All right, maybe some of you don't even know who Crystar, the Warrior, is. And I think, yeah, like I was saying, Hasbro just announced the toy, or the toy's dropping. So this collects Marvel Age 1 through 34 and annual number 1. And what exactly is Marvel Age? If I were to pitch this to somebody, how would I even pitch it? because it's such an interesting collection. And it's an interesting collection because we have the internet these days. We don't have the need for things like Wizard Magazine or things like Comic Buyer's Guide. It, oh my gosh, there's so many catalogs that we used to get when I was a kid, or Marvel Age. So Marvel Age was pretty much a creation to let fans know exactly what was happening behind the scenes. There's editorial notes, there are notes about what's coming up, what's current titles are ongoing, rumors, original artwork in here. There's interviews, there's some behind the scenes, there's things for people that want to break into the comics field and how to do it. There was even a contest for breaking in as a writer or as an artist or as an inker or a colorist. There's color guides through here. There are ads for other Marvel books at the time, the Epic line, not the Marvel Epic line that we have now that most people probably think of, but the actual Epic line where we have like Akira and things like that. They were printed on there. And then, of course, all the books that Marvel was printing at the time. I love the release dates. Like they were announcing the books that were coming out, including books like G.I. Joe, Conan the Barbarian, Cole, Red Sonja, Transformers, Rom, Micronauts. For example, here is an article, Life Among the Barbarians. Now, this comic started in 1983. And you're probably wondering why I'm calling it a comic. Well, because it was coming out like a comic book in a monthly format. And yes, in here you had interviews. Like this one is with Butch Guice. And you have people's names like Peter David. You're going to learn a lot of like these creators that went on to become writers, artists, editors, and just phenomenal writers you may look up to. Started off as interns or just writing articles for this particular magazine or this particular comic. There was original stories told through here too, with original artwork and stuff that unfortunately Marvel doesn't own the rights to. Like we just looked at that Dreadstar or Red Sonja, or what we saw earlier with Conan the Barbarian. Here's Indiana Jones, although they could print an Indiana Jones, I think. But you're going to find work in here by Kurt Busiek, Jim Shooter, Mary Jo Duffy, Roger Stern, Bill Mantlo, Walter Simonson, Tom DeFalco, Mark Grunwald, Steve Englehart, Alan Zelenitz, Dennis O'Neil, John Byrne, Louise Simonson, Peter Gillis, and James Fry, Ron Friends, Rick Leonardi, Chris Warner, Mark Bright, Paul Neary, Bob Hall, and Mike Mignola, just to name a few. This is the color guide, if I'm not mistaken, where they kind of teach you how they break down the comics and the color codes that they use. There are letters, and some of these letters crack me up. And I'll get to one here in a second. There's ads for the upcoming comic books that were coming out. And everything is intact. So yes, this isn't a comic book per se, right? This isn't like a monthly story that you follow the adventures of particular characters. This is the behind the scenes as to what was happening at Marvel Comics, rumors that were going on. And there's some really cool articles in here. And I will be 100% honest with you. I did not read every single one of these. It would be impossible with everything else that I've got reading going on. But I read a couple of them that kind of piqued my interest. And some that I remember when I had these in single issue. I didn't have all of these. Some of these things I'm seeing for the very first time. But I had quite a number of them because I always wanted to work in comics. I always wanted to know what it was like. And oh my gosh, it just seemed like such a blast to be working in the comic book industry amongst these giants. Let me just show you. Like, this is what the bullpen looked like. This, to me, because I remember this particular issue, this looked like madness, but I wanted to be part of this. Like, I wanted an office at Marvel to draw my comics and write my comics, and I thought this was such a dream. All these interesting characters, and it was just packed, and all these little tiny cubicles and tiny little offices, you know, as to what was really going on. But you get things like that, like things you didn't really see in monthly comic books. And there's articles in here about the Micronauts, Dazzler, the upcoming like graphic novel. You have artwork right here. This is the talent department talking about the inks going from sketches to finished product. Just wonderful behind the scenes stuff. But I did want to show some of the humor that they had was also poking fun of themselves. Like, this is what what most of us call the infamous nose era of Iron Man, and they knew that, right? Like, they knew, so they were poking fun at themselves. So they were in on the joke. There's things in here like Conan the Commuter. This is actually, this is Paul Smith. Yeah, PMS right there. That was his signature. And if I'm not mistaken, in issue number 9, this is the Super Boxers issue, is where one of these little letters, so people started writing in letters to the Marvel Age, and they were complaining that, hey, wait a minute, you misspelled ROM. You spelled it RON, not ROM. So right here on page 21 of issue 7, ROM is spelled Ron. So this is how, oh, this is awesome, by the way. Like, this is the inks by Carl Kessel, and here you have the roughs right there. But they were like, okay, we'll just do a pinup of Rom screaming Rom, not Ron. Kind of reminded me of the Eddie Murphy, I'm Gumby, damn it, not Gum. And some really interesting articles, too, that of things that could have been. And honestly, there's all kinds of ads through here. Like, let me show you one that makes me hope that we finally get more of this King Conan in omnibus format. Yes, right here. I remember seeing this ad in other comics, and I was not reading Conan at the time, but this ad got me, and I was wanting to know what happened. How is this comic going to keep continuing? And in King Conan number 20, which is not in omnibus format, but who knows? Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Fingers crossed. It's the Futurians right here from Dave Cockrum. So maybe there's a lot of these particular characters and stories that some of you aren't familiar with. This is really cool. I don't think this is in the pages of Uncanny X-Men number 3. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember seeing the pencils right there by Paul Smith. I just remember seeing maybe some of the layouts in the past. And again, letter pages, just showcasing how much they love the fans and how connected they were to the fans and listening to the fans about what kind of series they wanted. And of upcoming things. Like, I can't imagine being a kid and then seeing this, all these characters, the secret of Secret Wars. This is how we used to get hyped. And it's really interesting because I'm trying to explain to my kids what it was like to have no internet, right? Like, we didn't know about all these things. We weren't connected. It was just us in this particular world that we got lost in. And this made it feel like we were connected to these giants, these people, because again, no social media, so we didn't know what these people looked like. I had no idea what Jim Lee looked like or what Chris Claremont looked like, John Byrne, until I started going to conventions. So this was a really cool inside look at the behind the scenes of how these books get made. And I can't imagine, like I said, being a kid and looking at Secret Wars for the first time and seeing like the new Spider-Man costume. I would have been freaking out. Now, I know it feels like everybody's so connected, right? Marvel releases something on social media, people can hit like, angry face, dislike, excited, happy face, love, whatever it is. I guess people do feel connected more now, even though... Anyway, never mind. I'm not even going to go down that road. Let's keep looking through here. I'm not going to look through every page. I'm just going to look through some of the things that I found interesting. The articles in here talking about John Byrne. There's a whole John Byrne issue. And again, poking fun at the way that the interviews are done, poking fun at John Byrne himself. There's some original Fred Hembeck stuff back here. And then we have original stories, like I was talking about, Six from Sirius right here. It's by D. John Zimmerman and Mark Lehrer. And new directions for Spider-Man. Some behind-the-scenes stuff. Now, if you're worried, like, wait a minute, they don't own the rights to G.I. Joe, they don't own the rights to Transformers, worry not. The G.I. Joe stuff is in here. There's the G.I. Joe files. I've had lots of questions about G.I. Joe on my Saturday streams that are wondering if they were able to print them. And whenever I announced them, this particular omnibus, I did ask the question, is everything going to be able to be printed in here? And the answer was yes. Every single thing that they had is going to be printed in here. So while a lot of you are probably looking at this going, what is this nonsense? Some of you are looking at this going, man, does that bring back memories? When Marvel was such a beast, when you had G.I. Joe, ROM, Crystar, X-Men, Spider-Man, the Avengers, Captain America. They had, like, to me as a kid, that was my world. And here's, speaking of Transformers, here's the Transformer article talking about the comic book and things to come. Interview with John Romita Jr. right there. Little behind the scenes as to how he got his start. And nowadays, you can just Google, or I'm sorry, YouTube an interview with John Romita Jr. or just look up things about the man. But back then, this was the way that we kept up with the comic book industry. Now, I'm going to show you one of my favorite articles that I've always heard about, and I knew it was in here, but I never got a chance to read it. Behind the scenes, behind the lines special report. The story behind the Avengers JLA team up controversy. So here they talk about how there was going to be a Justice League and Avengers team up book. And this is something we heard about later on, right? Whenever we actually got one from Kurt Busiek and George Perez. Because we had an X-Men and New Teen Titans team up book, or a crossover book, but people were wondering where's that Avengers and Justice League. So it's this long article talking about what happened, and odds are it's probably not going to happen, but it's just really cool to see this, and maybe it's just me, printed on a book that has Marvel's logo and a Marvel Omnibus at that. That's just kind of crazy, because this is the kind of things we speculate about today. But back then, they were just kind of giving us the 411. I don't think anybody says that anymore. On what really is going on with this crossover that people kept hearing about. There's tips on how to write comics in here. Ads again for nobody knew what the last Galactus story was going to be. And sadly, we still don't, because that was never finished. G.I. Joe updates, like new characters that were going to be added to G.I. Joe. Iron Knife right there, Spirit. I forgot that they called him Iron Knife in the comics a lot. But all these names like Wild Weasel, Scrap Iron. That Cobra Commander's not new. He's been there for a while. But Zartan and his family. And then, of course, if you were watching the TV show, there's a really cool article in here, too, about the upcoming TV show. Let me show you a little bit of things that might bring back some memories. And then, in case you may have read it already. But this is J.M. DeMatteis. I'm going to show you something else that's really cool. This is Moonshadow. And Moonshadow was recently published, and time just flies by like that, so you'll have to excuse me. In my head, it was recently published, but it was published finally all in one by Dark Horse Comics. Because it started over in the Epic line, and it never finished, and then they eventually published it at Dark Horse Comics. Now, it wasn't all fun and games, too, because things like this would happen. This is Stobratsky, who had been Stan Lee's right-hand man, and this is a beautiful tribute to him, talking about who he was and how important he was. And Stan even talks about how, so never wanted the spotlight. And I'll be honest, the only reason I even knew that name years back was because of that the What If issue. What if the Marvel bullpen had become the Fantastic Four, and so had become the Human Torch? So it's really interesting to see this, right? Because nowadays it's like somebody passes away, and I know you see it all the time. Somebody that drew comics or wrote comics or worked in the comic book industry, they post a Facebook group, you hit like or you hit sad, and then you move on. This was on print. I kind of miss this stuff. This immediately immortalizes the man and talked about, in detail, what he did exactly, how he came up in Marvel Comics, and how him and Stan became friends. And here's some of his artwork, like Millie the Model. Oh, this is the issue I was talking about, the Sol Brodsky as the Human Torch. Just things like that I kind of miss. I do miss print, I'm not going to lie. And honestly, looking through here and flipping through here, I kind of miss Wizard Magazine and those monthly magazines we used to get where we heard our rumors. And this is the stuff we used to have. Rumors come in. This is the new talent department written by who? That guy right there, Kurt Busiek. Now, one of the most coolest and handiest things you're going to get out of here, or at least I did, is this right here. The official Marvel Comics Personnel Pronunciation Guide. Burn. This tells you how to pronounce these names. Buscema. Because some of these are hard to pronounce. Cohen. And that's why I went back, because I've been saying DeMatteis for so long, but it's actually DeMatteis. So, damn. Where was this? And now we need an updated version of this. So I've got like so many viewers correcting me all the time. And please keep on correcting me, by all means. There's an ad for... This is the cover introducing us to the concept that Nightcrawler was going to have his own mini-series, the swashbuckling hero, drawn by his co-creator Dave Cockrum. But I wanted to skip a little bit. Thundercats and comics. Oh man, and here's the annual right here. This is really interesting. Because most of the time, this happened twice in this book. It's a clear page. Usually they would put the logo here, like Marvel Age, right? That's some... They can make sure that the spread pages are okay and they're intact. That way you don't have this page right here and this page right here. They have a blank spot. They're filler pages. But usually they put like a logo or a picture up there or a cover. But this time around, yeah, it's just a white... I haven't seen that in a long time. I used to see it when they used to print a lot of the Marvel and DC books. This is a really cool annual about the Beyonder and a phone call. And there's original stories in here. They wanted to do something special. And then a little bit of what's to come with spoilers. And speaking of spoilers, is the whole thing in X Factor in here, talking about what's to come in the pages of X Factor. Nobody knew who the fifth member was going to be. And this is really cool. Talking about G.I. Joe going to Hollywood, making the animated series, or the actual the first I guess it would be the pilot episodes, because there was more than one episode. That was really cool. That article was awesome. So I had to read that. This is Carl Burgos, the memorial for the man who lit the torch, and of course talking about the creator of the Human Torch, the original Human Torch. And meet Misty. Like, things like this is what you're going to find through here that you're not going to find anywhere else. I love this take on the giant size issue #1, but this is what I was talking about. Here comes X Factor. Mutant Mania is running wild. And this is the colors I was talking about, showing you the different colors they use in comics. But this shadowed out who the fifth member of X Factor was going to be. So cool. I can't imagine being excited. Like that would have been like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a new X series and we don't know who the fifth member is. Meet the new Joes right here. So the new G.I. Joes, with the Punisher article leading the way right here. The mini series. Mike Zeck's wonderful artwork. Doctor Who showing up in a Marvel Omnibus. Crazy. This book is really cool. And I get it, not for everybody. Here's the new Joes. All right, who we got? Lowlight, heck yeah, Hotspot. Hedgehopper didn't even get a picture. There's Beachhead, a Mainframe, Wetsuit. So these are some of the new Joes that were introduced through this. Cross Country. I hated that guy when I was a kid. I didn't like that guy. The Get Along Gang. Now, that song is stuck in my head. Romita's Raiders right here. And not much as far as extras, by the way. There's original art. Again, this is the second time you'll see this. An empty page. Really strange. Maybe they just forgot to add the Marvel Age logo right there. But here is your original artwork right here. Original covers. Sienkiewicz and Cockrum right there. And then this is original page by Al Milgrom and Joe Sinnott. Has sewn binding, and it has 1,192 pages. And here's what the eye looks like. Sorry, didn't hold it up long enough. This one is printed at the iMac printer, so there is a little bit of bleed through. Flaggle Rock. Oh man, I loved that show when I was a kid. I never read the comics, so there's a little bit of bleed through because there's a lot of white, so you can see. And so whenever it's light or it's just white pages, you can see some of the art bleeding through. And I guess I could have just used this as an example all the way back here, so you can see precisely what bleeds through back here. But that's the kind of stuff. And then, of course, let's look at the annual for the way that the book lays over with the gutter loss. And that's all the way back here, almost towards the end. And this is the kind of gutter loss. This is the exact image they used for the cover, by the way, the standard edition cover. So you do have some gutter loss going in here, and that's just the way the book is bound. Like, let's see, Colossus's right shoulder there, and Kitty Pryde's like the right hand side of her hair. So a little bit of gutter loss. So not a lot of spread pages through here though, but that's what kind of book this is. Hopefully I was able to make you understand what exactly was Marvel Age and why some people, not everybody, were so excited for this. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if this brings back so many memories, if you've never heard of Marvel Age, and you're like, I've got the internet, why do I need this? Well, long before there was the internet, long before Wizard Magazine, there was Marvel Age. So, leave those comments down below, questions down below. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.